Hey, Blane Chocklett here. Really excited to share this new shank system, this articulated micro spines. It's going to allow us to downsize everything that we've been doing, going from the large game changer platform to the smaller game changer platform, being able to tie flies like this small micro changer in under 2 inches. And that's what we're going to do today is taking the iconic woolly bugger and adding the game changer platform to that, getting that super wiggly, multi-articulated deal from it. Also adding some dumbbell eyes to help give it that jigging action. What makes a predatory fish come to your offering? It's movement in the first place. Before, you're relying on just the feathers pulsating in the water to get that fish to the target, which is the bugger. This one, not only do you have the feathers with the marabou and the hen to make that happen, but now you have that multi-articulation and have that swimming action that all predatory fish love. It's just the next step, moving forward, creating the next generation of fish catching tools. But the whole thing behind this platform is adding movement to the smaller platforms. And you can go super small with this stuff. These spines come in 8mm. They also come in the tail sections and a 6mm right here. So what you have is a whole system to work with from here moving forward. It's going to allow us to just downsize, but the key to this is allowing us to have realistic movement in a micro size. First off, I'm gonna do the iconic woolly bugger and turn it into the game changer. We're gonna call it the bugger changer. Hook we're gonna start with is a size 6 Kona. The next step is we're gonna be moving forward with 4 8mm shanks, then a 15mm shank up front. Let's get started. Number 6, big game hunter. We're just gonna take a 6/0 thread. Only gonna be using the front quarter of the hook. We're going to keep this short. And from there forward, we're going to be using a black Hackle. These are the Indian hen saddle patches. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. It's just going to give us our taper. So the next step, we're gonna take an 8mm articulated micro spine. These things are pretty small, as you can see here. An easy way, I wanna show you how to open these up a little bit to make them so they go over hooks and whatnot. So you're gonna take a bodkin and put it through the back opening. Hold that in place, and that'll separate it enough to be able to get your fingernail underneath, and then just open it a little bit like that, forcing it open. Pull it out, and it'll stay open just enough to be able to slide over the hook eye and down, just like so. This particular spine is a little different in the opening. It's more of a triangular opening than a circular opening. And what this does is it allows us to condense our gaps. So when you tie these flies, you're not gonna see a lot of gap in them. Much like when you see this micro changer, it looks like one full body, but you still have the multi-articulation. So that's the reason we went with this triangular back opening versus doing a round. The next thing we're going to use is the streamer brush from H2O and Renzetti. And we're going to be using the 1/2 inch all the way through on this pattern. You're going to tie this in at the back, work your way forward. Just going to do some open, not too tight of wraps. Fold these fibers back as you go. Leave yourself a little bit of room at the head. Trim the excess. all that stuff is moving back this way. The next step is you're gonna take your hen, Indian hen, right here at the base. Get rid of some of the fuzz. So as you tie this now, you want to make sure that all the fibers are being swept towards the back. So what you're going to have is this nice olive underbody, and finish this off with a little bit of UV resin. Protect the thread wraps. Next step, come in with the second 8mm micro spine. The cool thing about this system too, with these new spines, is having that triangular back opening. That triangular deal allows the jaws to accept these smaller shanks better than they would if it was round. And reattach your wire. You're gonna just wrap this forward, a little more dense than the previous, not crazy dense though. Get about an eye length behind the eye and tie it off. And what this does is it gives you room to tie in your soft tackle, just like so. Next step, you're gonna move up a row on the Indian saddle. This helps form that taper I was talking about. You notice I kind of force these fibers back. And one reason I do use the hen saddle here is natural webby fibers block water, divert water around the core, which helps add in that swimming action. That's why I use it for the feathered game changers. Coming in with the third 8mm. And if you want to do these smaller, the 6mm will be great. Everything's going to be more condensed, makes the fly smaller, but you're going to maximize movement and not compromise anything. So all here, same thing, just adding that 1/2 inch. Gonna be a little more dense on this particular round. I get a little more dense as I go forward, meaning I get tighter wraps, and I also will pull tighter down on the wire brush, which will help shrink everything and allow us to get more wraps on the spines. Again, I'm gonna stop about an eye length behind the eye. Then I'm just gonna go up another row on the hen, and this is gonna keep stepping me up as I go forward. When we tie these in by the tips, it helps the feathers stand up as you wrap them. If you tie them in by the butts, they want to lay down more. So tying them in by the tips, they stand up and they wrap back nicely. Last 8mm micro spine going in. And we're going to reattach the wire brush here. This one's going to be a little more dense than the previous. Peel off this under fur. So next step, we're going to take a 15mm, now the original Game Changer spines. And something I like to do here is I like to flip it over. It's going to rod hook up, so when I do this, I want to make sure that this underside, where the shanks come back together, is on the underside and the hook is riding up at this point. This is where I'm going to put my dumbbell, and it's going to help rest up against that. That's why I do that. So start your thread, close off this gap back here, trim your tag. We're going to take a small dumbbell, flip it over, a couple wraps on one direction, going towards the back, come back around. Typical way you would lash dumbbell eyes to a hook. Just figure 8 wraps and then up under, back behind and forward, and figure 8 again. Now we're going to kind of reinforce it a little bit with thread and come back a little bit to this back opening. Come back a little farther, about a quarter way up that back opening. It's just going to give me more room to wrap materials. Those are tight, dense wraps. Bring that wire brush on top. You're not going to trim this. You can come forward with it a little bit though, wrap it down, but then bring your thread back. So what happens here is I'm going to add my hen soft hackle. Tie that off. Force the hackles back a little bit. And bring your brush back. So at this point, before I wrap the brush, I'm going to add the silicone legs to it. And in this particular one, we're going to use black barred olive. And we'll do 2 on each side. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Trim this. And you're going to wrap 3 or 4 wraps forward with the brush. You're going to do 1 more collar right to there. Lay that underneath, tie that off. 1 more collar of soft hackle. And this time I'm going to use 2 feathers. This is going to make it a little more dense up front. So now I'm done with the Hackle section. I'm gonna do a couple more little wraps to get forward here, and I'm just gonna finish this fly off with some figure 8 wraps with the brush coming over, up underneath, come back over, and back underneath this time. Force all the hairs back now on the brush. We're going to wrap several tight wraps forward. Being mindful to pull the fibers back as you do this, and make this as full ahead as we can. Try to get several wraps here. And by pulling tight down on the brush, it will allow you to get a little closer together and get a little bit more wraps to make the head a little more full. There you have your olive and black bugger changer. You can trim the legs to match on each side, about halfway down the body.